Senate confirms appointment of Cardoso as CBN governor as well as 4 deputies. NLC TUC declare a definite strike from October 3 over hardship from fuel subsidy removal. And the Independent National Electoral Commission fixes date for Edo and Ondo State out-cycle governorship elections. Let's take a look at headlines of stories outside Nigeria. Cameroon threatens to prosecution against coup speculators, and Zambian information minister sacked in mini cabinet reshuffle. I'm Kofi Bartels. Stay with us on Politics HQ. We'll be right back. Again, with the confirmation of Olayemi Cardoso as the new Central Bank of Nigeria governor, as well as his 4 deputies who will be working with him. The Nigerian Senate began the screening of the newly confirmed, or the screening of the nominated CBN governor and the top officials of that bank on Tuesday today, with the deputy governorship nominees Nnana Usoro, Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, Philip Ikeazor, and Bala Bello. Cardoso and his deputies will be in charge of Nigeria's monetary policy under the Bola Tinubu administration. The Central Bank of Nigeria has had its battles in recent time, including an embattled, suspended Governor Godwin Emefiele. Well, to delve deeper into these issues on Politics HQ, as a matter of fact, the plenary is still ongoing. And we have Gbolahan Olojede, is a policy analyst and finance expert. Gbolahan, thank you very much for your time. Yes, following the proceedings in the Senate today, they're still on as we speak. We have our eyes on that. The questions asked to Olayemi Cardoso and his team were nothing short of very incisive, very informed, and really technical. And even after he was confirmed, they're still ongoing with their advice and the things they feel he should be looking at. It's amazing. It's amazing. I can. If I write the questions based on what the senators asked and suggested to the CBN officials today, these papers won't be enough. But this is a departure. It's different from what we've been seeing during the ministerial nominations screenings. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, everybody knows that the issue of the CBN role and the expectations is what you can call the big elephant in the room right now. The foreign exchange issue, we have all seen what has happened to the Naira since even before the collapse and after the collapse of the multiple exchange rates. And the implication of that for several segments of the economy cannot be overemphasized. So everybody is interested because the stability of the Naira is what we all look forward to and is the critical component of driving this economy in the right direction. So everybody is interested about Cardoso and what they think it brings to the table to be able to help the economy stabilize.
Interesting. We have quite a number of well-informed people in finance and economy in the Senate, even the likes of Jimo Ibrahim is still there. But Dr. Cardoso was nominated to the office of Central Bank governor amidst significant challenges in Nigeria's financial sector, or as far as monetary policies are concerned. What do you see as the most pressing issue he needs to address immediately?
Okay, in the immediate, there is need for more. It needs to review policy-related issues. The CBN has been accused of all sorts of policy somersaults. It has been said that there is not enough transparency. We all saw what happened with the recent release of the financial statement, the audited financial statement of the CBN, and the kind of comment that came from that report. So elements of more transparency is important at the CBN level. The CBN must also begin to distance itself from things that are not necessarily a core focus of monetary issues. In the previous regime, we saw how CBN became Minister for Agri, became manufacturer, became literally everything, including even touching politics, trying to contest for the presidency and all that stuff. So CBN must distance itself from that. The beautiful thing is that the new boss was a banker himself and the chairman of a bank at some point in his career. It comes to the table with critical relationships that he can continue to leverage on as far as the direction that he must take that could be effective is concerned. For example, the banks are very critical to whatever he may want to do, the banks. He is the boss of the banks, but he needs their support, and he can court and get those support that he needs. Beyond that is a critical handshake with the fiscal side of things. A lot of what will help the CBN governor are not even within his own purview. If you look at, the long term or the medium to long term shoring up of our FX supply, a chunk of that is not within his capacity to do. So if you're saying, oh, Nigeria needs to produce more goods and services and offer it to the world so that it can earn foreign exchange, that Nigeria needs to curtail its consumption of what it doesn't produce, that Nigeria's refineries need to work so that we can use that to reduce the amount we spend importing fuel. Some of those things I've just mentioned right now are not directly within the purview of what the CBN governor himself can do. So it is in the place of handshake that is firm with the coordinating minister for the economy that some of these things can begin to take root. But on his part, he needs to sanitize that system. We are aware of all sort of things that were going on with the allocation of FX to people of privileges. All those things must stop. Even little ones that don't speak well, that concessionary allocation of forex for people who want to go on holy pilgrimage and all of that. Some of those things have to be reviewed. Though I know that holy pilgrimage is a small amount of what we're talking about, but there are those allocations that were huge to certain privileged people. We must look at those things and ensure what it puts in transparency and trust for the system.
All right.
Part of what it means.
Well, one of now Governor Cardoso's top priorities will be to stabilize the foreign exchange market, like you just rightly pointed out. Well, how do you assess the current state of the FX market in Nigeria? It's pretty bad, isn't it? And what strategies can he employ to address this FX crisis, at least within his power?
Okay. He must do whatever is within his means to shore up supply. So the chief marketing officer of the country, the president, for example, has gone out there telling everybody that we are ready for business, want to do this, want to do that, So that is courting FDI. So whatever he needs to do on his part as far as policy is concerned, so the cutting FDI, assuring people who are bringing their money of how they will be able to take it out, issues around this FDI being focused on production of things that are for export. A very good area where we need to, invite foreign direct investment is in our mining assets. For example, we must bring people. Why? Because most of those mining assets are actually exports. They are exports. So when we export those things, we make foreign exchange. When we cut foreign direct investment into the country, we improve the supply of foreign exchange. When we also address the issue of importing all sort of unnecessary stuff into the country, it means that we're able to conserve foreign exchange. So he must be looking at all these things and begin to do it. And like I said earlier also, working closely with the fiscal side of things will be very necessary for his role in this season. I don't envy him, though.
Interesting. The Naira has faced, a lot of its struggles. In fact, significant depreciation. President Tinubu has, been selling, like you said, as the chief marketing officer of the country. He's been selling his much touted floating of the Naira, single exchange rate. But it hasn't worked because we all know that the, parallel market is still very active. We saw, under Emefiele, different kinds of policy and strategies, from cutting trees, offering shades, to malams who are selling dollars on the streets of Abuja so they won't have anywhere to hide from the sun, to going after Aboki effects and all that, just in a bid to ensure that we have a favorable exchange rate. Today, we hear that offers on the black market are touching 1,000 Naira to the US dollar, which is really quite concerning. How can Governor Cardoso, work to strengthen the Nigerian currency and prevent its slide? Please go on.
The CBN governor must necessarily avoid drama. Drama are issues, policy issues that are not going to change the face of what we want to change, but the CBN governor will plunge himself into it. A very good example are part of what you have mentioned. Those things, they are just like more or less like drama. At most, maybe they will work for a week. After a week, we are back. We are back. So the issues around foreign exchange, you can just break it down into two major ones, apart from, the scheming and gaming of the system. One is that supply-related issue. Focus on how to improve the supply. Then on the demand side, how we can cut down on frivolous side of the demand. We need to deal with all those matters. Then the rest are pretty straightforward. If the supply should increase today, we will begin to feel the positive impact, the strengthening of the Naira we'll begin to see. As simple as that. So he shouldn't get involved. I believe he has the right, personality to avoid that. At some point, we're even arranging, rice pyramids and none of that stuff in Abuja. Those are all the kind of drama that a CBN governor has no business with in the real sense. So focus on the issue of supply side of foreign exchange, and also the people that are gaming and scheming within the system, as well as frivolous demand on the side of the system.
All right. Avoid drama is your advice to him. We had pretty much a lot of that in the past few years. Well, the previous governor of Central Bank of Nigeria now resigned, Godwin Emefiele, like you talked about. He said he went into agriculture. He focused on what we can call development finance programs, to promote growth. And I looked at the CBN Act. There's some things that allow him to do that. But, inflation, which is what people are saying he should have focused on, was left unattended. Cardoso has his work cut out. What balance should Governor Cardoso strike between stimulating economic growth and the important responsibility of controlling inflation?
It's a very dicey season for any government, which is why I said I don't envy. It's not truly correct to say that the previous guy did not do something about inflation. It did, which was why we have seen MPR having gone from like 12% all the way to over 18% as we speak. Those were attempts to use monetary policies to curtail the spiraling inflation in the economy. But unfortunately, the inflation that we have in the economy goes beyond the demand side of things. There is a cost push inflation, and the effect of the just raising MPR on a continuous basis was not going to solve that problem. It has not solved that problem, and it will not solve that problem. So for curtailing inflation, I presume that the current guy will continue along the line of at least keeping it on the low as far as increasing MPR is. There will be continuous intervention to mop up excess liquidity. Unfortunately, the fight is tough because on one side, government is pumping money on the fiscal side. You can imagine 2 billion to every state in the country. That's 2 times 6 billion, and there may be more. FAC allocation has become.
All right, Bola, we've lost you, unfortunately. We'll try to get back to him, but we are still looking at today the confirmation of Nigeria's new monetary team at the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is Nigeria's apex bank. Today, Dr. Olayemi Cardoso and 4 deputy governors of the Central Bank of Nigeria were approved by Nigeria's Senate according to the law after they screened him being a nominee for the position of governor and his 4 deputy governors nominee. And of course, they performed well, even if you listen to what those who know are saying. We have Gbolahan Olojede back. Gbolahan, thank you very much. Glad to have you back. Let's talk about ways and means. This is quite, how would I put it, a controversial one. You know, it's a contentious one, the ways and means issue. But Cardoso's leadership comes at a time when the Central Bank of Nigeria faces scrutiny for its role in ways and means advances to the federal government. How can he address this contentious issue of ways and means and, you know, restore and then maintain the integrity of the Central Bank of Nigeria?
Transparency, that's the name of the game. The ways and means that we have accumulated over the years, it wasn't as if the CBN was the one spending the money. Of course, CBN was printing, quote, the money, and then all the agencies of government were doing the spending. For a long time, there were no audits going on at the CBN. So those are areas of cloudy areas. He must bring transparency onto the table for Nigerians as far as running that place is concerned. We don't want a situation in which we will have accumulated 23 trillion in debt and the accounts are not audited, which means that we have no transparency about spending to over 20 trillion naira. What kind of a country spends that amount of money without the people know? The other question that issue brings to the table is in the space of advice. Was he advising, or was the CBN advising the government on the implications of this printing, only for us to start complaining about inflation later on? So the place of being able to play his role in advisory capacity must be more pronounced. The CBN guy doesn't talk too much. That's the typical CBN guy. When he speaks, he doesn't speak frivolities, and everybody is waiting because everything he says has an impact on the markets. Immediately he says those. So the governor will have to tread that line of a person with the right personality for the role, avoid frivolities, and focus on the job.
Interesting. Let's talk about the banks for a moment. You mentioned them earlier. Listen to one of the senators point out, in his opinion, that the banks became a bit too powerful, even more powerful than the Central Bank of Nigeria's governor, because they were allowed to get away with certain things, including the non-remittance of revenue to the apex bank. Now, apart from that, there have been calls, to review the capacity or capital adequacy requirements for banks due to the depreciation of the Naira. You know what happened in the days of Sanusi Lamido and co. Do you think this is necessary? Review the capital requirement of the banks, and what implications will it have on the banking sector, which is very critical to any economy?
Okay. When we made the decision, or when the country made the decision that the minimum capital for a national bank will be 25 billion naira, when that decision was made, that 25 billion naira was about $200 million. Today, that same $200 million is now $30 million. So something has happened to the capital that we agreed should be the minimum required for these banks to be able to deliver on their mandate of funding this economy, at least the domestic side of things. So if that has happened, we are at that junction where we must ask the critical question. Do we want to go back to that minimum of $200 million, or we want to leave it at $30 million? If we want to go back to the $200 million, which of the banks has that capacity? Some of them, even if you raise it today, they have enough in retained earnings, and they can stand their own anywhere, as far as even the $200 million is concerned. But there might be some that may need to show up things. And that is why it is a good time to review that space. Of course, there will be a range of, a couple of years or more than that we can say, you must bring up your capital to this particular level within this number of years, as the case may be. But the issue of recapitalization is important. We should go there, we should review it, find out those banks that are still as strong as they are supposed to be under the 25 billion capital that we conceived way back. And those ones that may not be up to par, that we need to show their capital and make a decision on how that could be made to happen.
Quite interesting. Let's look at the issue of loans given out by the former central bank governor or the former regime. I listened to one of the senators today speak so eloquently, and he talked about the anchor borrowers program and the monies given out as loans that people diverted, in his opinion, allegedly to build estates around Abuja and other parts of the country. But let's not go into that. The central bank, we know, extended significant loans to various sectors of the economy, not just the anchor borrowers program, some of which have not been fully paid, as we well know. How should Cardoso and his team, handle the issue of loan defaults and ensure responsible recovery of those loans and responsible use of funds in the future?
Okay, the CBN intervened as expected of any such institutions in the wake of COVID-19. And that was not just a Nigerian affair, it was literally global. Even printing of currency happened in America and several other parts of the world. But having done that, those loans, it is important that they are recovered. We need to review their status. There was a time that banks were asked to extend moratorium. Interest rates were below market rate, and they were asked to also extend for how long the obligors have to enjoy those lower rates. So it's about time we review that space, know exactly the status of those loans, so that we can make a decision on what to do with.
All right, Gbolahan, we have lost contact with you again. I was just going to ask you a quick one on the contentious new Naira notes and cash withdrawal policy instituted by the former CBN governor. Bola, if you can hear me, a quick thought in a sentence or two. Okay, we still don't have you. We'll have to leave it at that. It remains to be seen what the new Central Bank of Nigeria leadership team will do about the confusing state of Nigeria's currency, having two different designs at the same time. And what exactly are we doing about the cash withdrawal limits